So one of the coolest things about creating a solo independent animation project is the power. The power to know that you and only you have complete and utter authority on when and how something is going to be created without anyone telling you how to do it otherwise. However, that does come with a couple of disadvantages, namely the fact that you and only you have complete and utter authority on when and how something is going to be created. Sometimes your imagination gets ahead of you, other times it's your ambition, and finally, sometimes you just have no fucking clue how anything's going to get done. This is the messy side of independent animation creation. So let's talk about what I need done in order to progress through my project. How do I get myself out of this messy phase? How do I coalesce at least something in this project to say that I can move on to the next phase? So one of the first things you got to recognize when you are approaching a film of your own is knowing your unknowables and your knowables. So what are you good at? What are you horrible at? And what are you just okay at? Knowing these things will help a lot in finding out how to approach the production and how to complete it. Now, normally you would go from screenplay to storyboard to animatic and then do all the fancy shit like character design, rigging, animation, because the storyboard really does inform, what you can and can't do. However, in my case, I really think that the character design will inform the way that I structure the storyboards. I want to get at least a block out done of all the characters before I move into storyboarding. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to get some characters done. At least one character done in this video. That's basically all I had time for in the last 2 weeks. It doesn't happen overnight, so let's talk through the process of me creating this character and what I'm considering at this time in the character design, because I'm not going to finish it. I'm just going to get it to a state that's good enough. So let's briefly talk about this character. What is this character's motivation? Who is he? What is he meant to be doing? Why have I designed him this way? That sort of thing. So going back to the sketches, it is all centered around the same location as I talked about in the last video. Now this character here is meant to be sort of the ringleader of the rival gang faction. So this character is basically in charge of the smuggling outfit that is going to compete in this sequence of events, I guess you can say. So he's the ringleader. I don't want him to be too crazily designed. I want him to be a little bit more neutral in his design approach, because I want the side characters around him to be more eccentric than he is. He's sort of the level head of this particular gang. So I want him to be a little bit more casually dressed, a little bit less eccentric, and a little bit more functional in the way that he dresses. That being said, his personality, I kind of want all the characters to have an Aussie tinge to them. So he does have a mullet, okay? He's got casual shirt and shorts. And the idea behind the mask here, all the characters have masks, is that the air is saturated with pollen, essentially pollen that can choke you to death in an instant with anaphylactic shock. So these aren't gas masks, these are just air filters basically. So if you lose the air filter, you basically die. That being said, you can still walk around on this planet with just regular clothing. Everything around about the planet is kind of like a Goldilocks planet. That's the irony here, is that it's a perfect place to live, except it's not. All right, that's the idea of this planet, is that on this planet, you can choke to death on pure air and you have nothing you can do about it. All right, that's the idea about the masks. So the mask also solves another issue in that I don't have to worry about modeling faces and animating lip sync. So a lot of the performance can still have a lot of narrative, but the body language is what will inform the emotional tone of the characters as they move around in the shots. So that's why I sketched it out on paper first. Now the sketch is going to have a full color, neutral sort of 3/4 pose. I don't really do like posed stuff with my designs. I probably should do it a little bit more because, it will inform the personality of the character a lot more if I do a more dynamic pose. But for a functional sense, it doesn't give any advantages to me. as I transition that into a 3D model. So a neutral pose followed by a model sheet. So a front and side view of that 3/4 will give me a good idea of how to approach the character in 3D. Okay, so while I'm sketching away here, let's talk a little bit more about this messy stage of production and how we may be able to mitigate it in your project and even my project as well. So the messy stage of any given production is that period during the pre-production where you have the most amount of unknowables, okay? Or you have assumptions that turn out not to be correct, all right? So the goal in any given production or during pre-production is to solve these unknowables to your best ability, all right? And that usually requires a little bit of exploration on all fronts. So if you've written a screenplay and you think, oh yeah, this is awesome, it has all the things that I want in my film, and I think I can create it, take a step back, read it over, and just analyze in the words you've written what you need to achieve the bloody thing, to create the thing. Sometimes you realize, damn, that is just too many characters. Other times you're like, oh yeah, there's an explosion there in this video. I don't know how to make that. I'll figure it out. And then, yeah, you move on. So really take a moment to analyze your screenplay. Is it too long? Is it too short? Is it even achievable with the time and budget that I have? From there on in, you can kind of start to build out some sort of production pipeline or a production schedule. Now, every project needs some kind of schedule in mind. It can be pretty loose, especially as an independent creator, but you need to have something in your mind or written down that says, at this stage, I want to have this, at this stage, I want to have that, and eventually, by then, I'll be ready to complete any given part of the production to move on to the next. Whether it is figuring out your environmental design or whether or not you have capacity to build out those kinds of environments that you have in mind for your animation. So you may explore it and see, damn, I want to have this super cluttered, super dense environment where these characters inhabit. But that just means you have to build all of that stuff. So maybe you need to either pare it back or figure out a way to make that job a little bit easier through some R&D. The same thing can be applied to your characters. So one, the number of characters in any given sequence. Two, the amount of dialogue they have. You'll notice that, for instance, a lot of short films tend to have a single character with no dialogue at all. And that is just to allow that one creator to do the whole project without a ridiculous amount of dependencies. So that means you don't have to seek out voice actors, you don't need to seek out and do research on different personalities and body language for any given character to imbue them with more personality, and it just makes the story a lot more focused. If you are going to go down a multiple character route, then you have to explore all of those things in a decent enough amount of detail so that when you come to production, you know kind of who they are and what they are and how they behave and all sort of thing in order to make a believable character. The same thing can be said for music, sound effects, everything, VFX, post-production, all those different stages. Now, of course, you can't answer all those things at once as a single person. But what you can do is try and figure out what your easy wins are in the given moment. So for instance, with me, I am a pretty decent character modeler. I'm a pretty decent rigger, and I have a decent amount of animation knowledge to do at least some of what I need for the overall production. So that's why I'm focusing on the characters first. I'm not focusing on the environment at all right now, and I'm not really thinking about the animation either, okay? All I want to do is get a cast of characters lined up in one space that tells me, yes, they work well together in terms of their style, they marry up nicely, and two, in terms of like rigging requirements, they aren't going to be so crazy that they're all going to be super different. Basically, I have in my mind that I know that I want the rig to be relatively portable to each character. So that means that the overall proportions will be kind of similar. I know it's kind of weird to say that, even that they're going to be like skinny and tall and all that sort of stuff. But what I mean by that is just like, you know, overall, the function of the rig will stay the same across the characters, okay? So doing the characters now solves a lot of the other messy questions, you know, now rather than later. So that's why I'm doing the characters now. So the characters solve a few things. One, it will solve proportion and how they sit up next to each other, how they will converse to one another, how they will interact with one another. It will just give me that information just by the design of them. The other thing is the rigging requirements. It will tell me exactly what I need to do to make them sort of move the way that I want them to. And three, it will give me a better sense on how to structure the storyboards and animatic for animation, because then I can learn, okay, this character's taller, this one's shorter. I can frame the scene like this. I can place the characters here without it feeling like they're out of balance there. That sort of stuff really helps. And because I have a knowledge in modeling, I can get that done right now. So the focus for the next several weeks for me will be on getting the block out done for all these mainline characters, okay? So why am I not going to go down the full bore and get them to a final animation state? Why am I not gonna like design them completely now and not worry and, you know, save myself to worry about doing it later? Namely is because I don't want to commit too much. Like the other thing about that messy stage of any given production is this idea of overcommitting too early. So you're committing to certain aspects of your film that may or may not work in the final output, okay? So what I want to do is explore that a little bit more before I commit to a final design. So for instance, with these characters, you know, a lot of people will, you know, model the entire body and then put the clothes on top with the anticipation that there's going to be a costume change. Now, for me, I know none of these characters are going to get a costume change, okay? So that means I can be more, you know, streamlined in my modeling approach. I'm just going to model them as they are with clothes on and not worry about the undergarment areas. I'm not going to worry about the parts of the body that aren't going to be shown in any given capacity. So I'm not going to bother about doing a base mesh, putting clothes on top of it, simulating it in that regard, okay? So I'm just going to model the characters as they are in costume. The cool thing about that is that I can be relatively conservative with my poly counts. I can sort of model the arm, even though it's part of a sleeve, I can model the skin part of the arm, the exposed part of the arm, and connect it to the sleeve underneath the sleeve. And, you know, no one's going to notice it, but it will still be one piece of geometry. Those are the sort of things I can solve for right now. Okay, so with a couple of days spent recreating the character design in Photoshop along with the model sheets, it's now time to take those images, bring them into Blender, and start working on the 3D model. But before I go into doing that, I thought you guys might be interested in seeing what my current work setup is for this project, because as I mentioned before, I don't really want to spend too much time in my office. I want to be able to move around the house or move around anywhere else along with my equipment to do the work that I want to do in my own time. So that means I need to stay pretty portable. Okay, so there's only really two things in my kit that I use every day as a daily driver when I'm moving around a lot, and that is my laptop and my tablet. So my laptop that I'm going to be using is the MacBook Pro M1 base model. Now this thing has been my trusty companion for the last 4 years, and it hasn't skipped a beat since. I think it's an amazing laptop, and the nice thing about this thing is that you do get Thunderbolt across every port, which means it pairs really nicely to the next device, which I'm going to talk about, which is the XP Pen Artist Ultra 16. This has been supplied to me by XP Pen for review, so consider this to be the review. It's a 4K OLED display, pre-calibrated from the factory to give you the best color accuracy possible, and it also supports touch input.
I mean, look at the colors here, they just leap off the display. And on top of that, it also features etched glass,
which means that you get very minimal reflections. As you can see on the screen, it's just the light cast from the window, but it's not really reflecting the room at all. So you get a really clear drawing experience from this tablet out of the box. And the nice thing about pairing it with the MacBook Pro that I really love is that you only need one cord, one USB cord to connect it to the laptop. So you're not really carrying a bunch of random cords and different power supplies and all that sort of thing just to get this thing to run. And that's perfect for a mobile setup such as this. That's the standout feature for me in this case. So it pretty much has everything you can think of when it comes to professional grade quality display features needed for a professional artist like myself. Now, it does come with a few cool other perks as well. Namely, it comes with a macro remote, so you can pre-program this to whatever you like, depending on what app you use. And it also has multiple styluses for you to use as well. A traditional one and a slimline one, which is giving you a similar experience to that of an iPad pencil. They also don't require batteries, which is great. Just pick them out of the box, get started, and start drawing away. The other nice thing about these pens is that they can also be pre-programmed. So depending on which pen you put to the screen, it will detect each one, which means that you can have different macros on the buttons that are actually available on the pens themselves. So that's really cool for a number of reasons, namely that if you like to use one pen for Photoshop and then another pen for Blender, you can actually pre-program the middle click and the side clicks to do different things. So I find that quite useful just by playing around with it a little bit as well. It also comes with a number of nibs that you can swap out. So obviously it has replacement nibs, but it also has these felt tip nibs which give you a much more natural feel to how you draw on the screen. So yeah, you kind of get everything, which is really great. It does come with a kickstand as well, but I don't really like the kickstand in this case. It's a stick-on one. It is metal, but it is a stick-on one, and it basically fell off as soon as I attached it to the tablet, unfortunately. So in the future, I wouldn't mind the next iteration of this model, either including this as still an optional accessory, but maybe make it magnetic or something, like some sort of clip-on effect or something like that would go a long way for me to actually be using this thing. But otherwise, I just use a custom stand at this point to use this tablet with. This is my portable workstation setup in a nutshell. This allows me to be away from my office and still feel unburdened by any performance constraints that you may expect from being so mobile. It allows me to work in the living room or on the dining room table, or even in my bedroom if I feel the need to, just be a little bit creative at night. Or I can move completely out of the house and go to the library or go anywhere I want and still get the best work I can get done possible without feeling any constraints. So let's jump into Blender, start working on the 3D model, and push this aside so we can move on to the next character. So if you've been following my channel for some time now and watched several of my modeling videos for character design, you'll notice that I do tend to create the entire physical body of the character before I put the clothing on top. Now, I've done that for several reasons in those videos, but I'm not going to do it in this case. So previously I would do that just to demonstrate to you guys how to do it, essentially, how to model a full body before putting clothes on. But in this case, I don't really need to do that because I know that the character isn't going to change their clothing and they're not even going to show their face really. So that means I can go straight to modeling the character as they are clothed without worrying about that extra step. So you'll see me basically start to block out the clothing and work with the topology around that. The topology of clothing can technically be a little bit simpler than modeling just a full naked body because you're not worrying about the musculature all that much. So the rest of the modeling process is pretty similar to my non-sculpting workflow that I've shown in the past. So if you were to check out that video and apply it to your own character, you'll largely get the same workflow that I'm doing right now with the 3D model. But apart from that, it's just really about understanding how certain clothes sort of intertwine to one another. So the way that the front of the shirt overlaps with the back of the shirt in terms of the lapels and stuff, where the buttons are sitting, that sort of thing. And then where there are parts where there is skin, so have enough geometry that would have the clothes cover that part of the skin, but not model the entire rest of the body. Eventually, however, I wouldn't mind, as I mentioned a second ago, connecting the skin to the shirt directly so we don't have to worry about deformation and clipping issues when it comes to deformation of the body. Okay, so with that block out done for this character, I'm gonna park it for now and move on to another character because the goal isn't to get a finished model done now with all the texturing and everything ready to roll because I haven't really fully finalized the style of the rendering just yet. I don't want to spend too much time doing too much extra work if it means I'm gonna have to pare it back or change it completely in the future. So let's park it for now, and they're gonna move on to another character because we have plenty of characters left to model, and I hope you stick around to watch me create them. All right, so until then, thank you for watching. And of course, thank you to XP Pen for supporting the creation of this film by sending through the Artist Ultra 16 for me to check out and see how it integrates into my daily workflow. If you are looking to increase or improve the productivity of your own creative workflow and you are looking for a new tablet, whether it's a basic tablet, a mid-range tablet, or a professional grade tablet, XP Pen has you covered, and they've actually sent me through a few affiliate links down below for you to check out. And of course, if you do click on those, it helps support this channel as well. So please, go ahead, check them out. Every bit of support helps. And of course, thank you to you guys who are watching and for those who support the channel already. If you don't support the channel yet, please just get subscribed, get notified, and you'll know exactly whenever I produce a new video. For those who are already supporting the channel, whether it's through YouTube or through Patreon, again, thank you so much for sticking around and supporting me as I go through this journey of creating another short film. As always, the source files are going to be available on Patreon, so if you want to check those out, feel free to sign up. And of course, you do get other perks like Discord privileges and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically it. Until next time, catches and have fun. Cheers.